Everybody. It is attorney Jasmine Barber with the Law Ladies coming to you live from my home office. Let me start that over. Hey everybody, it's attorney Jasmine Barber with the Law Ladies. I'm coming to you live from my home office where I have been sheltering in place since about mid-March. We're going to be joined by attorney David Wilson this afternoon. He specializes in business and tax law. But just as a quick update, Chief Justice Melton has announced that he is extending the judicial emergency in the state of Georgia, so we can expect to see limited courthouse functions until at least June 12th, 2020. So I'm waiting for attorney David Wilson to join in. I hope that everybody is able to hear me. If I see that Georgia Law Lady Ashley McMahon is joining us, I'm waiting for Holly Waltman, who will be moderating this conversation for us. And hopefully, if you guys can't hear me, somebody drop me a line and let me know that I'm having technical difficulties. I'm just waiting on attorney David Wilson to join us to get all of your questions answered about business and tax law during the coronavirus pandemic. Excellent.
So David should be jumping in. I just accepted his request to join the live, so he should be on screen any minute. David, if you're seeing this, you might still need to click accept. It says that I am waiting for attorney David Wilson. While we are continuing to wait for a few minutes for attorney Wilson to join us, I can go ahead and jump into a little bit of the introduction that I would love to give about him. He and I graduated law school together here in Atlanta, Georgia. And after we graduated law school, of course, we all started studying for the bar. While we were waiting on bar results, I was sitting at home mostly twiddling my thumbs. Attorney Wilson actually went to Boston University, where he earned an advanced degree in tax from Boston University. He did that program, completed that program in a year. And so then he came back to Atlanta, and that is when he founded his law firm, which is the Wilson Firm, based here in Atlanta. He provides premier legal services to business owners all over the state of Georgia. He's an excellent attorney with the degrees that he has. He uses a master's degree that he earned before law school, as well as his law degree and his advanced law degree, in order to provide very comprehensive representation to his clients. And so as soon as we get attorney Wilson on the line, we are going to get started with some questions that have been submitted to us before today. If you have any questions in the area of business and tax, especially when it comes to how coronavirus has had an impact, please drop them below in the comments. We will try to get your questions answered live, and we will just work through that. I'm going to send David a text and see if he is having some difficulty. everybody who's currently on with us today. We are trying to get Attorney David Wilson on live. He may be having some connectivity issues on his end, so please hold. This gives you a great opportunity to think about what kind of questions you would like to have answered by Attorney Wilson. We can be reached info@thelawladies.com via email, or you can go over to our page to follow us. You can submit any questions that you might have to us directly. You can head over to attorney_DA_Wilson to follow David Wilson so that he can get your business and tax questions answered. You can reach out to him for a consult. And for everyone who sticks around at the end, there will be a giveaway. Excellent. We've got David. David, can you hear me?
There we go. I'm sorry about that.
It's absolutely no problem. You gave our followers some time to get here, to join us, to think about their questions. I've already done a little intro about you. I told everybody about of course, your law degree, which is where we met, and then you continued on and went to Boston University, got an advanced degree in tax, and now you are using your prior history before law school, working in the financial services industry, along with the many degrees that you have in order to provide premier services to your business clients. So that's kind of the backdrop that I've set. You know, I love to brag on you. So that's the backdrop that I've already set for everybody who's tuned in with us today. And we got a lot of questions while we were waiting and hyping up this session for us today in the space of business and law, or business and tax, particularly as it pertains to the impact that coronavirus might have had on various business owners. So the first question that I had for you is, starting out, you represent businesses in various stages of their life, from formation all the way down to dissolution, as well as you handling a lot of tax litigation matters. So I'm just curious to know, has anything come to like a screeching halt when it comes to your businesses or your clients' businesses since the pandemic has started?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Jasmine, and I'm a big fan of the Law Ladies. Apologize for being a bit late. I did go to tax school. I don't know much about technology, so I got a little confused there with the Wi-Fi. But thanks to everybody for bearing with me. That's a great question. And so the bulk of my practice is business and tax transactional law. Maybe about 25% of it is litigation based. Controversy matters when tax issues get so advanced that we can't settle them between the IRS and we need to go to court, wherever the case is. And so in a traditional sense, that's probably the extent of my practice. As it relates to that tax litigation piece, I have seen where the coronavirus has kind of benefited a few of my clients, right? We've been going back and forth with the Internal Revenue Service or the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney, and we're right at the point of, going to court, right? And so right now, a few of my clients in the tax space that are concerned of maybe possibly getting indicted on the criminal side of tax, the federal courts are shut down. All courts are shut down. And so it has, kind of benefited them and given them more time to not deal with the stress of the IRS's kind of aggressive collection actions that they take from time to time. It's benefited us as a law firm, allow us to prepare a lot more as well. I mean, because if you have more time to prepare, then typically that can benefit your client. And when everything opens back up, I mean, who knows, how much time it'll take between now and getting them into court. So there may be some backup that gives them even more time, right? And so I could see in the litigation space, the tax litigation space specifically, where the court's kind of shutting down.
Hello, everybody. It is Attorney Jasmine Barber with the Law Ladies, coming to you live from my home office. Let me start that over. Hey, everybody, it's attorney Jasmine Barber with the Law Ladies. I'm coming to you live from my home office where I have been sheltering in place since about mid-March. We're going to be joined by attorney David Wilson this afternoon. He specializes in business and tax law. But just as a quick update, Chief Justice Melton has announced that he is extending the judicial emergency in the state of Georgia, so we can expect to see limited courthouse functions until at least June 12th, 2020. So I'm waiting for attorney David Wilson to join in. I hope that everybody is able to hear me. If I see that Georgia Law Lady Ashley McMahon is joining us, I'm waiting for Holly Waltman, who will be moderating this conversation for us. And hopefully, if you guys can't hear me, somebody drop me a line and let me know that I'm having technical difficulties. I'm just waiting on attorney David Wilson to join us to get all of your questions answered about business and tax law during the coronavirus pandemic. Excellent.
So David should be jumping in. I just accepted his request to join the live, so he should be on screen any minute. David, if you're seeing this, you might still need to click accept. It says that I am waiting for attorney David Wilson. While we are continuing to wait for a few minutes for attorney Wilson to join us, I can go ahead and jump into a little bit of the introduction that I would love to give about him. He and I graduated law school together here in Atlanta, Georgia. And after we graduated law school, of course, we all started studying for the bar. While we were waiting on bar results, I was sitting at home mostly twiddling my thumbs. Attorney Wilson actually went to Boston University, where he earned an advanced degree in tax from Boston University. He did that program, completed that program in a year. And so then he came back to Atlanta, and that is when he founded his law firm, which is the Wilson Firm, based here in Atlanta. He provides premier legal services to business owners all over the state of Georgia. He's an excellent attorney with the degrees that he has. He uses a master's degree that he earned before law school, as well as his law degree and his advanced law degree, in order to provide very comprehensive representation to his clients. And so as soon as we get attorney Wilson on the line, we are going to get started with some questions that have been submitted to us before today. If you have any questions in the area of business and tax, especially when it comes to how coronavirus has had an impact, please drop them below in the comments. We will try to get your questions answered live, and we will just work through that. I'm going to send David a text and see if he is having some difficulty. everybody who's currently on with us today. We are trying to get Attorney David Wilson on live. He may be having some connectivity issues on his end, so please hold. This gives you a great opportunity to think about what kind of questions you would like to have answered by Attorney Wilson. We can be reached info@thelawladies.com via email, or you can go over to our page to follow us. You can submit any questions that you might have to us directly. You can head over to attorney_DA_Wilson to follow David Wilson so that he can get your business and tax questions answered. You can reach out to him for a consult. And for everyone who sticks around at the end, there will be a giveaway. Excellent. We've got David. David, can you hear me?
There we go. I'm sorry about that.
It's absolutely no problem. You gave our followers some time to get here, to join us, to think about their questions. I've already done a little intro about you. I told everybody about of course, your law degree, which is where we met, and then you continued on and went to Boston University, got an advanced degree in tax, and now you are using your prior history before law school, working in the financial services industry, along with the many degrees that you have in order to provide premier services to your business clients. So that's kind of the backdrop that I've set. You know, I love to brag on you. So that's the backdrop that I've already set for everybody who's tuned in with us today. And we got a lot of questions while we were waiting and hyping up this session for us today in the space of business and law, or business and tax, particularly as it pertains to the impact that coronavirus might have had on various business owners. So the first question that I had for you is, starting out, you represent businesses in various stages of their life, from formation all the way down to dissolution, as well as you handling a lot of tax litigation matters. So I'm just curious to know, has anything come to like a screeching halt when it comes to your businesses or your clients' businesses since the pandemic has started?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Jasmine, and I'm a big fan of the Law Ladies. Apologize for being a bit late. I did go to tax school. I don't know much about technology, so I got a little confused there with the Wi-Fi. But thanks to everybody for bearing with me. That's a great question. And so the bulk of my practice is business and tax transactional law. Maybe about 25% of it is litigation based. Controversy matters when tax issues get so advanced that we can't settle them between the IRS and we need to go to court, wherever the case is. And so in a traditional sense, that's probably the extent of my practice. As it relates to that tax litigation piece, I have seen where the coronavirus has kind of benefited a few of my clients, right? We've been going back and forth with the Internal Revenue Service or the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney, and we're right at the point of, going to court, right? And so right now, a few of my clients in the tax space that are concerned of maybe possibly getting indicted on the criminal side of tax, the federal courts are shut down. All courts are shut down. And so it has, kind of benefited them and given them more time to not deal with the stress of the IRS's kind of aggressive collection actions that they take from time to time. It's benefited us as a law firm, allow us to prepare a lot more as well. Because if you have more time to prepare, then typically that can benefit your client. And when everything opens back up, who knows, how much time it'll take between now and getting them into court. So there may be some backup that gives them even more time, right? And so I could see in the litigation space, the tax litigation space specifically, where the courts kind of shutting down have benefited a lot of taxpayers, and it's kind of taken the burden off of them of having to worry about, that tax liability at this point.
Yeah, and I can relate. I don't do very much I don't have any open cases actually right now that are pending in federal court, but from a superior court, felony, state court matters, that's definitely lot of difficulty with the criminal litigation side with clients who are just sitting in jail waiting for a trial. And as of right now, the Supreme Court of Oregon has already announced their intention to extend the judicial emergency until June 12th, 2020. And who knows whether it is extending it. So I can definitely relate from that standpoint, kind of putting it on hold on a tax litigation standpoint. And I did have an interesting article that I saw that I'm going to bring up, but I want to move into our second part, our second question, or collection of questions really comes around the coronavirus tax relief for businesses that has been drafted or passed into law by Congress in an attempt to help business owners. So can you talk about some of the big ticket items in coronavirus tax relief for businesses?
Yeah, so one of the things that it's important to know about just tax law in general, specifically as it relates to business tax, just to kind of frame where we're going here, is the nature of tax law is really designed, well, the tax planning component of it is really designed to help businesses and individuals, but keep or preserve the amount of money that they've made, right? And so you have a traditional business and their marketing and sales efforts to grow the top line and make money for your business, right? And then afterwards, you have to put together a strategy to say, hey, my business made X amount of dollars. How much of this can I keep in-house, right? Can I keep to grow my business, to pay my employees, to pay myself, to pay rent, et cetera, right? And so the real tax accounting bookkeeping element inside of your business is really designed to figure that number out. We need to keep this money. We're not necessarily concerned about growing your revenue, but preserving it. And that's more important now than ever before, because you see businesses with no clients, right? My law firm has been affected. Many businesses, every industry has probably been affected, maybe except the grocery industry, right? Grocery stores and Chick-fil-A are doing great, but aside from that, most companies are not bringing in the revenue that they once did. And so the emphasis on this tax accounting, this preservation of capital or cash in your business is now greater than ever before. And so that kind of feeds into a lot of the things that they have done to try to spark the economy, but it's really designed to say, hey, what can we do to inject more money back into these businesses, right?
For a lot of these businesses, it's their lifeline, right? It's their means of survival.
Say it again. I'm sorry, I missed you, Jasmine.
I said for a lot of businesses, this tax relief is their means for survival. When you don't have a lot of clients walking in the door, or you don't have the ability to operate normally, the infusion of some relief can be the only thing that keeps them alive through this pandemic.
Yeah. So, and I think if I heard you, you mentioned that there's just are you speaking about tax professionals in general? Your phones can't hear you that well.
I'm talking about just business people who own businesses and are currently in like shelter-in-place orders, or they're not able to function at their normal capacity, bringing that revenue line down. So being able to keep more revenue in your business is their means of trying to stay alive through the pandemic.
And we're in a place now where everything that the federal government is trying to do is they're trying to spark the economy, right? A lot of the efforts, if you look at the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which is really geared towards payroll tax credits, right? It's an incentive basically for employers like myself and you and other employees to say, hey, listen, we're going to give you tax credits to keep your employees on payroll if they get sick, right? Or if they have to leave work to take care of someone who is sick, or in a lot of instances, take care of their children at home, right? And so I'm in a situation now, working from home. I've got, I'm trying to be quiet now. I've got 2 kids upstairs sleeping. Hopefully they don't interrupt us. But the federal government has considered that and said, listen, if you're in that situation as a self-employed individual, or if you have employees who are in that situation who have to take care of their kids and can't work, if you're able to extend to them family leave time or sick time, on the back end, we'll give you a payroll tax credit, right, for that amount, right? It ranges anywhere from 66% to 100%, just depending on the type of leave that you can give to your employees. But one of the problems with that is, again, not having the revenue to support that, right? At some point, you've got to figure out, well, I want to pay my employees, but I'm not making money, right? Which kind of brings in, the CARES Act, right? And the Paycheck Protection Program, right? Which everyone is talking about. That program is nicely dovetailed with the tax payroll incentives, because now they're saying, well, hey, listen, I want to pay my employees and put them on family sick leave, or if they're out and they're sick, but my business doesn't have any money. I don't have any cash to be able to pay them. And so the payroll protection program is exactly that. It's the dovetail. It's the opposite of, okay, we're going to inject this cash into your business to allow you to be able to employ your employees, to pay your own, to pay yourself as a business owner. And so it's really important, and it's kind of unique the way that they're injecting these different programs. And let me back up for a second and say, I'm just hitting the big ticket items today. There's a bunch of things on the individual side that we can maybe talk about, but I'm really trying to focus on the business side and what they're trying to do to save the economy from crashing. But those two programs work very well together if you can qualify for them. One, you can qualify automatically just by simply running payroll. That third. The other one takes an extensive application process. It's run through the SBA, and I'm speaking of the Payroll Protection Program. It's run through the federal government, runs it through the SBA, and the SBA has branched it out to a lot of the local banks. And the local banks have been working extremely hard to process these applications. Most people are familiar with the first round of funding was exhausted.
It was like gone in a few days, right?
Yeah, it was gone in a few days. There's been a lot of, I guess, negative PR about, some of the companies that were able to take advantage of it. Really what it boiled down to, in my opinion, was, it was, first come, first serve, right? And some of the businesses who are represented by accountants and lawyers, where they were teed up and ready, ready and able to take advantage of this application, right? They probably have relationships with banks and financial institutions. They probably have a banker, for lack of a better word, in their pocket, someone that they communicate with on a regular basis, who has their information. They're able to get that information over to them quickly. So when the application is opened up, some of the larger, more resource companies probably were a bit more prepared, which is just pretty much common in life, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened was some of the smaller companies like myself, who applied, were left out on the short end of the stick. And that pushed back, some of the larger companies got the negative PR. I think maybe I heard Ruth
Chris was a big one. Shake Shack, I think, was another big one.
The Los Angeles Lakers is my favorite basketball team. They had to return some money. But it's important to note that these efforts, the payroll protection program, was really designed for small businesses, right?
Right.
And one of the things that's very misleading about small business is that, for example, the state of Georgia's definition of small business is a business that grosses 30 million or less, right? Or that has 300 employees or fewer, right? And so, in the mind of most people, if you have a business that's grossing $25 million,
I don't feel small.
I'll take $25 million, a $25 million business. You can call me small all you want. And so it's a large scale. It's very misleading of who can qualify for it, right? So that's what's kind of happened here. It's been some negative stuff. Now they've kind of done a second round of funding. Hopefully some of the small businesses can take advantage of it. That money is 75% of it is to be used towards payroll. The other 25 utilities and other expenses, rent and things of that nature. I think it was a great effort on part of the federal government, Congress, getting that stuff done. It's just that there are situations where people kind of beat you to the punch.
Right.
The
early bird gets the worm, right?
Yeah. There was an article that came out maybe a couple of days ago about two gentlemen business owners up in Rhode Island.
That's the article I wanted to ask you about. The federal government has brought fraud charges against them. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so naturally, when there's a lot of money out there, it attracts, good and bad people, right? And so unfortunately, there are some people that are going to take advantage of it. They're going to be smart. They understand the system. And these two gentlemen, from what I was reading, the Yahoo article, essentially attempted to allegedly defraud and get some extra funds. But the point of it is there's a lot of that in the competition of securing funds, right? You're competing against sophisticated larger companies that are well advised, and then you're sophisticated for crooks. I mean, you're competing with crooks as well. So it's very challenging for some of the small businesses, to get their foot in the door. And I'm a small business, so these are things that I personally deal with as a business owner as well.
Yes, and everybody who is just joining us, we are talking about coronavirus tax relief that's been provided for businesses. Attorney Wilson is here with us. If you have questions, he has very detailed and intricate knowledge about the inner workings between the PPP, the payroll protection, versus the EIDL, which is more of the disaster relief loans. I know there's been a component added for federal unemployment to add on top of state unemployment money that a lot of people are able to take advantage of. And so if your business is in trouble right now, if you are, struggling to get by and you need to talk to somebody about how to take advantage of these different programs that have been put out for your benefit, make sure that you reach out to Attorney Wilson. You can email him at da@thewilsonfirmatlanta.com. I think I have that right. And he would be happy to set you up with a consultation and take a look at where your business might specifically be able to take advantage of some of these programs.
Yes, just if I could jump in there and just add one thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't put a plug in for some of the nonprofit businesses, right? Right. A lot of times, we're always focused on the for-profits. They're the Fortune 500, but there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are out there struggling as well.
Right.
And I represent for-profits and nonprofits, and so I gotta put a plug in there. There's a couple of things that they've done for nonprofits that's just been fantastic, right? And so if you consider the nonprofit organization world, which is a state term, and then you have to go and file for federal tax exemption and decide whether or not you want to be a 501c3 or 501c4, whatever the case may be.
You know these terms are flying way over my head.
Well, I'm going to get down to it. So the 501c3 is what everybody is pretty much familiar with. Those are charitable organizations, right? They benefit the public for the most part. And that kind of, it's the broadest base of tax exempt organizations, right? Typically in a 501c3 charitable organization, which can be a public charity or a private foundation, they are allowed to attract donors that can donate to them 30 to 50% of their adjusted gross income for a tax deduction, right? So that's what makes it attractive. Is if I can go to you, Jasmine, and say, hey, listen, you made $100,000 last year, your adjusted gross income was $100,000, you can give $50,000 of that to my church and you can write it off. Or you can give $30,000 of that to a private foundation and you can write it off, right? Which is great. What they have done for the year 2020 is they have basically suspended those limitations, right? And so now if you are a nonprofit or a public charity, whatever the case may be, you can go out and attract donors, and it's more donors, and it's more attractive to be able to say, hey, listen, now you get a greater tax deduction for giving to our cause in the year 2020. And so to go from 30 to 50% to say whatever amount that you want in this particular year for the most part, it's just fantastic. And so you can imagine some of the nonprofits, especially the ones that are in the public health field, one that may be in the shelter and in medical field or whatnot. This is a great year for them to tailor their mission around the coronavirus and attract more donors. So I thought that was something that was really fantastic. You always got to, consider the nonprofit world. Most people forget about them. I just wanted to make sure I gave them a shout out on here.
Now, we did get one question in the comments from the Red Contemporary, and they're asking, are they already out of the second round of PPP funding? Have you heard anything about whether there are still funds available for businesses to apply for, or whether they are already tapped out on those resources.
I haven't heard that they're tapped out. The
And I don't
biggest
think
challenge,
that I've heard that either.
yeah, the biggest challenge with that is the financial institutions were so overwhelmed with applications that some of the institutions are no longer accepting applications, right? And so my bank, I'm not going to say their name because it probably wouldn't be a good, PR move, but they sent this email and said, listen, due to the overwhelming, number of applications, we're no longer accepting anymore. And what we're doing is we're working through the ones that we did have, and hopefully they'll make it down to my application at some point. And so that's going to be the challenge, I think, for a lot of small businesses, is making sure that you're going to a financial institution that is still receiving applications, and you're not as far down on the list that when the funds are exhausted, because they probably will be exhausted at some point,
right?
You're going to be left out. And so it's tough because right now, banks are closed for the most part. Some banks you can set an appointment with your bankers. I know my bank, the local bank that I go to, I can't get in there. Everything is through the drive-through. And so it's tough because you want to have that conversation with your banker and say, hey, listen, where am I, on the list? It's kind of like, going to Houston's or something, right? At least tell you, we got 20 people in front of you. It's going to be a 2-hour wait.
Right.
And you can kind of make your mind up. Right now, you don't know. It's like nobody knows. So it's tough. I haven't heard that the funds are out, but finding an institution that is still accepting these applications is going to be extremely important.
That is, the insight that you have on these things. Once again, if you have any questions that do not get answered live today, make sure you reach out directly to David Wilson, DA at thewilsonfirmatlanta.com, or you can send the Law Ladies a message, info@thelawladies.com, and we'd be happy to get you in the right hands when it comes to your various questions. So the next kind of segment that we wanted to make sure that we touched on, given all of the expertise that you have, the knowledge that you have in this space, the intersection between tax and business and finances, during these unprecedented times, this coronavirus pandemic, what would you recommend that business owners should be considering?
Yeah, so there are some additional things that people can do, some proactive steps that you can do to kind of protect yourself from being in a position again where you got no money coming in, but from a revenue perspective, but you're able to preserve your capital. One of the best things, the best examples that I can give people now, and it's really a teaching moment, is to put yourself on payroll as a self-employed individual, right? I struggle with some of my entrepreneurs because they do a great job of paying their employees, but they do a poor job of paying themselves, right? And so I tell people all the time, you need to have a business that serves you. And one of the things that I'm seeing out here is, to be able to tap into something like state unemployment, right? State unemployment, what a lot of people don't understand, it's an insurance, right? It's state unemployment insurance. It's through the Georgia Department of Labor. Here comes my son. But one of the things that you have to understand about insurance is it's based on the amount of money that you put into it. DJ? It's based on the amount of money that you put into it, right? And so if you're not a W-2 employee of your particular payroll.
Hey, TJ.
Okay. All right, thank you. I told y'all you were coming. I told you.
Yeah, it was inevitable.
So with that, right, it's a valuable tool as a self-employed individual and people who are on payroll for you to say, hey, listen, my business is shut down due to this coronavirus, partially shut down. I have been paying into this state unemployment system for a number of years. Now it's time for it to pay me, right? And it's such a valuable tool. A lot of business owners are realizing now that they can't qualify for it, right? And that's tough. Now there are some unemployment efforts made at the federal level that you can tap into, but if you hadn't set yourself up in a payroll perspective, then you're not going to be able to tap into it, right? And so, a person like myself, there's on a partial unemployment, It's $365 coming from the state and another $600 coming from the federal government. That's almost $1,000, but if you average it out over a year, it's almost $50,000 that you could get back simply because you set yourself up the right way. And of course, that's spread out over 12 months.
Right.
But think about it. Think about what $50,000 a year over 4 months rather would mean to your household right now, right? It would mean a lot. And so I think this is a great opportunity for small businesses to kind of reevaluate the way that they pay themselves on payroll and they pay into the system. Another thing that business owners should consider is, and I'm glad I started this for myself many years ago, is long-term disability insurance, right? This is a situation where someone could get sick and be out of work for 2 or 3 months due to their health. And if you have long-term disability insurance and you can't perform your job, then again, now you have another insurance benefit that can pay you and your family directly. One of the best things about long-term disability insurance is it's tax neutral, right? And so if you get $5,000, it's $5,000. The Internal Revenue Service, the state of Georgia, doesn't get a piece of that, right? So that's truly $5,000, which grossed up is probably closer to $7,000 a month, right? That's a lot of cash for you to be able to bring into your business, right? There are other insurance policies, interruption insurance for your business. There's another disability insurance that you can get reimburse your company for revenue that's lost as well. But insurance is a really key area for businesses to consider because now these policies are going to be really tapped into. Now, one of the things that we're concerned about in this space, because you know as well as I do, Jasmine, you know, unfortunately, these insurance companies are lawyered up, right? And so they have these policies and these contracts that seem to try to predict multiple things that if they happen, then we wouldn't have to perform, right? And so there's a lot of talk and litigation about the force majeure provisions within these contracts.
Right.
That if there's a global pandemic, you know, we're not forced to pay them out because we probably don't have the money to like satisfy the entire world or all of our insurance policies. And so there's a lot of back and forth with that. So as a business owner, those are conversations you need to have. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an insurance agent. I had an insurance license years ago. I understand the industry, but making sure as a business owner, you have a good insurance agent, a financial advisor, they can walk you through these very difficult things to consider for your business to make sure that you keep money inside of your business.
Do you imagine, I'm going to hit you kind of not off topic, but I was thinking while you were talking, do you think it's going to be more difficult to get these different insurance policies, or is it going to become more expensive to get these insurance policies now that we are sitting in the middle of a pandemic?
No, absolutely. I mean, this is, it's just the way the insurance works, right? When they have to pay more premiums, guess what? They charge more. Or, well, when they have to pay more benefits, they charge more in premiums, right? That's just the way it is. Now, the opposite of that is what the car insurance company has done. This is off topic, but you see the commercials about the car insurance company saying, hey, listen, there are no cars on the road. And because there are no cars on the road, there's fewer accidents, which means there's fewer claims. And this is why you see the insurance companies, car insurance, auto insurance companies saying, hey, you know, we're going to give
a credit.
$2 billion back to our clients. And so that's the flip side. That was, you know, it maybe was a PR move.
Yeah, it was definitely
PR. We can talk about that a lot, but it's good. But you see the ebb and flow of insurance, of anything, really. It's when we spend more than what we have to, or that we expect to, then we have to make it up somewhere else. When we spend less, if we do the right thing, then you know we'll try to get it back. I want to point out one more program that I think could be really beneficial to business clients. You know, I use it within my business, and it's the WorkSource Georgia program through the Atlanta Regional Commission, right? And this is the payroll protection program. This is like, to me, the godfather of the payroll protection program, right? Like, you know, it was, I tell people about it now and they think it's something that was included or created in the coronavirus stimulus world, and it wasn't. It's been around for a while, but the short of it is there's a payroll reimbursement program for small businesses like myself that hire certain people who, may be outside of the traditional box. I don't have the hiring credentials, but the short of it is they will reimburse you up to 50 cents to 75 cents on the dollar of your gross payroll expenses to these individuals, right? And so I've been able to hire through this program, right? And and it's my contract has a $12,000 cap, right? So it capped at $12,000, but for each individual, but it's up to $100,000, the total value of the contract, right? Which I may exhaust that over the course of 7 to 8 years. But the short of it is, this is a program that small businesses can enroll in to get cash back into their business for hiring. I mean, hiring is one of the greatest expenses that a company is going to have, if not the greatest expense that you have, right? And so when you can get that money back into your company, when I can pay my admin or let's say $1,000 and 750 of that is returned back to me, that's a tremendous value, right? And it's not a program, and I try to preach this to my clients. It's not a program that is very difficult to get in. You have a business license, you have an office, you can't have a home office, a commercial office space, and you need to be current on your taxes, which is the 3 major requirements. And then make sure you hire in a certain it's a certain group of people that you have to hire. Like I said, I don't have the specifics on that. But the short of it is, during this period, I was able to receive a couple of those checks back, and put more money back into my business. And I've since then had to kind of downsize my staff a little bit. But the short of it is, in the early stages, I had money coming back into my business, which is kind of the theme of everything that I talked about before. It's what can you do to preserve as much capital in your business, right? Those are efforts that have to be a part of your business 365 days a year. Right? It's great to grow your business through revenue stuff, but you got to have somebody in there that says, listen, we're going to keep as much money as possible to invest in employees and other things. And so that's something that's a theme that just has to be repeated. That work source programs through the Atlanta Regional Commission, it's fantastic. It changes county by county. I'm in Douglas County, so it's a 75% county. I think Cobb may be 50, but the short of it is, I mean, this is real cash.
You're essentially reimbursed for hiring someone who basically, it's my understanding, they come from like the WorkSource Georgia agency. Yeah. So it might be something really well worthwhile considering for business owners now that a lot of us are kind of stuck at home and reevaluating how we are going to get back to anything that looks, somewhat normal. And so it may be a great time for business owners to investigate hiring through this program, knowing that it will reduce the cost of bringing on a new employee. When we hopefully get on the other side of this pandemic and we can go back to, I don't ever want to call it business as usual, but something that looks a little bit more like the life that we've left behind.
And not to mention one last point about that program, not only do you get money for the hiring and the payroll portion, but they also have a training reimbursement, right? And so if I were to say, hey, I really like this young lady or this young guy, this gentleman, I want to send them to paralegal school. I mean, I think it's after 6 months, they pay 100% of your, reimburse you 100% of your training costs,
oh, that's
right?
incredible.
So these are all tax-driven, tax-created programs, right? And like I said, these are things that people should be thinking about proactively,
right?
That will help you at a point where, hey, if there's something like this that comes up again, I've got money still coming in. And that's really what you want to do to prepare.
Well, I guess we're getting on the winded side of our live, but I do have kind of a wrap-up question to give you the opportunity to share, like, in your professional opinion, with the many layers of experience that you have, as well as the various types of owners that you have represented. What do you think that we should be looking towards on the horizon as we kind of plan to try to come out of this pandemic mode?
Yeah, so and that's a very good question, Jasmine. There are several things that people need to consider. What's coming down the line, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? And so the federal government is throwing around a lot of money to try to help people. A lot of it's, credits and deferrals. credits are better than the furloughs, but one thing that taxpayers need to consider is, the Treasury, whether it's the state or the federal government, it's probably depleted, or it will be depleted, or very low. And when those things happen, what tends to happen is they increase, the tax rate, right?
Right.
And so, they give it and they take it away. Taxpayers, they can anticipate that on the state and on the federal level that there's going to be a tax hike, right? You're going to see stuff. I think the state of Georgia announced some stuff last week. I know the Georgia Department of Labor, their unemployment tax rate, I think can go up to around 14%. I think that they're at 2.7 now. So they can fluctuate, and they probably will, to kind of spread the cost around to everyone, which naturally, probably should happen to a certain degree. In case it happens again and there's no money, then we have nothing. So just keep in mind that there may be an increase in taxes, in the years to come, right? With that, it's probably going to be greater enforcement, right? And that's something that tax attorneys like myself specialize in is, they're going to get a lot more aggressive, right? Knocking on doors, sending out more notices. Right now, they suspended pretty much all collecting, activities. You can expect them to come back.
That's going to come back. It does not just go away.
They're going to come back pretty aggressively. And so I want people to understand that. And then the last thing that, and this is something I've discussed with a couple of tax professionals, is, not everybody is going to qualify for the PPP loan, for example. And that application is very extensive with the amount of information as far as owners and bank accounts and this, that, and the third. And I'm not a conspiracy theory type of person, but just, one wants to consider, what is the federal government, really the IRS and U.S. Treasury, going to do with all that information from these businesses? Now they know where your most recent bank account is, right? This is information that the federal government spends a lot of time and money to go and pull and grab, and research and track down, revenue officers and people in the field that are trying to figure out, this business owes this. Where's the money? Where are the bank accounts? Where's the recent stuff, right? Well, now we're in a position where everybody is just giving this information over to the federal government. You may not qualify, and then what are they going to do with it if in turn you owe, later on? And so it's something that tax practitioners need to consider. You need to be thinking about, well, is my client a good candidate for this? Is it going to work for them before I just send out all their information?
Right.
And if it works for them, what's the likelihood that they're going to get, approved? Because now you've just given them everything about your business.
Right.
And so that's something that it needs to be considered. And I don't want to call it a privacy concern, but it's really something that people need to be thinking about. And hopefully some of the tax professionals are considering that before they give out advice about just apply.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I can, relate once again to in a criminal defense world. You have to be very careful about the information that you offer up in a public space and how that may, in one day or, down the road be used against you, essentially. And when you just give up this information, it's there for the taking. So I really, really appreciate you, David. You've given me and all of our followers so much insight on what things we should be looking for as business owners during this coronavirus pandemic, the types of tax relief programs that are out here that can be utilized by different business owners. And so I just want to extend a sincere thank you for joining me today. Taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure nap time is almost over for the kids. So I'm glad that, hey, we got a good window in there with some pretty much quiet at your house. So that worked out really well. I appreciate you. And before I sign off, just for everybody who's been watching, I know there may have been a little bit of sound issues at the beginning. The main piece of information that I wanted to hand out was, if you haven't already heard, the Georgia Supreme Court has announced its intention to extend the judicial emergency until June 12th, 2020, which has a lot of implications on people's criminal cases, whether you are out on bond awaiting an indictment, or if you have a loved one who's in jail right now trying to secure a bond. It's definitely a great time. Our offices Our physical office is not open, but all of the law ladies are readily available and working from home. You can reach us from the Law Ladies Instagram page. You can email each one of us, either Holly, Jasmine, or Ashley at thelawladies.com, and follow up with everybody who has lingering business and tax questions. Definitely reach out to Attorney David Wilson at DA at wilsonfirmatlanta.com. He has agreed, we have agreed in the spirit of our various series that we will be offering, the Law Ladies as well as Attorney David Wilson will be offering a discount code on consultation. So if you have those burning questions, those desires that you want to get a professional look at, definitely reach out. We are taking consults. We're running full steam ahead despite the pandemic. We're always here for you guys. So thank you for joining our live today. Thank you so much, David. And everybody have a wonderful Thursday.
All right, thanks.
Bye, David.
Bye.